Hi, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of the Passive House Podcast, recorded in Tarrytown, New York at the PhiusCon 2021 Passive House Conference. Before we get started, I want to thank Phius for putting on the conference and for coordinating with us on these interviews, as well as NYSERDA for serving as conference partner with Phius and community partner with us here at the Passive House Accelerator. Thank you, too, to Rockwell North America. Their generous support underwrote all of these interviews as well as our coverage of the conference. With that, please enjoy my interview with Shannon Pendleton of Sanderson Sustainable Design and Michael Ingui of Baxt Ingui Architects. So I have Shannon Pendleton of Sanderson Sustainable Design here, as well as Michael Ingui from Baxt Ingui Architects and founder of the Passive House Accelerator. It's great to have you both here. It's been fun to hang out.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So we are here to share impressions from the conference. So, and maybe we can start with impressions from the panel that you just presented at and some of the insights that you were sharing and that were part of that discussion.
It was an amazing panel. First of all, Phius put together they always put together a prefab panel. They have a history, right, with pushing prefab.
Right.
Because they really think it's going to accelerate the movement and scale us up to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And to be on the stage with Graham and Tessa was pretty awesome. You know, it's nice to stand on someone's shoulders, you know, and be on that same stage. So that was very fun. In terms of the discussion, it ran the gamut, you know. It's really an untapped resource that can take so many roads that the discussion in each presentation, you could look at it as bespoke for each presentation, or you could look at it as a totality of all the opportunities that are there because it's so untapped. It was really fun.
Awesome. And Michael, what have been your key takeaways from the conference?
I'll give you those, but first I'm going to give you my takeaway from that session.
Okay, perfect.
Because it was one of the sessions I was really looking forward to. I mean, I was looking forward to a whole bunch. I mean, I came in a day early and saw Tim McDonald, which, you know,
right, yeah,
blew me out of the water like it always does. I mean, and then. But this was just as good. It was incredible. I mean, a couple of things. One is the way they laid it out was so clear. And I don't do a lot of prefab. I want to do prefab. I'm doing one now. But the way they described things, the way they were able to show kind of a combination of gorgeous projects, along with the methods, the early delivery system, so many important tricks. And so many tasks. I think just the list of what you should do, what you should expect from 1 to 10. It personifies what I love about all of these conferences. But definitely the Phius conference where you come here and people are just giving away this information.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to do prefab to the level that Shannon's doing it right now, well, I'm going to know that I'm going to switch up my process. I don't have to learn that on the fly. I mean, that's priceless. I mean, that saves tens of thousands of dollars in time and frustration. So it was a fantastic session for that, but also just beautiful projects. So a lot of times you'll think of prefab and you're like, oh, you know, is it all, you know, does it look like containers or you know, something where no, I mean, you would never know. Yeah. Just gorgeous projects.
It was really style agnostic, right? And it was interesting because the two perspectives that were really trying to get to the same goal were you can do a custom prefab project where it's a one-off, it's really bespoke, and then you can have a replicable project that is trying to attack all of the systemic problems that we have that architecture could address.
Right.
I mean, you know, so two completely different project types trying to do the same thing because when you share something that's new for so many people who maybe want to try it and haven't done it, to give them just the little tips like, oh, if you want to try it, you can do it. This was our first time and we did it, you know, but we ran into these things. So make sure you prepare for that. Yeah. And I think it's more important to share those than the project itself, you know, because that's what's going to continue and live on and help people accelerate and build faster. And honestly, prefab doesn't care about Passive House. the Passive House cares about prefab, right? And if we don't prefab, someone else will, and they'll do it without Passive House. They'll do it to code, and then we'll have an acceleration of those projects instead.
Right.
So
that's a great point.
It's going to be at a scale previously unimagined.
Right.
We
So
need to imagine it.
Right. That's make sure we're aiming that train at the right direction. I don't know. That's a weird metaphor.
Yeah, it could be a train.
You have to lay tracks.
It works.
I don't know.
I like it.
But if you aim a train, you have to do the tracks too. It's kind of complicated.
Light, it's not a plane. So.
But that is a good segue to the first question was, what's my impression of the conference? Yeah. And I have to say, I had a lot of expectations coming in. I saw a number of the projects that were going to be shown prior, and it really delivered. We're just in a different place, and the conference really showed that clearly. Projects of all different types. We've got schools, we've got gymnasiums, we've got a cidery. We've got multifamily, we've got affordable, we've got market rate. And so there's no longer the question of like, can you do it passive?
No.
It's not even a question of, how do I do it, but how do I do it cheaper? I mean, they're all doing it already. So what was great about the conference is these are people doing it. They're doing it, they're making it happen. The buildings are gorgeous. In all the presentations, it wasn't just like, oh, here's how you do it, here's what my tape and my issues. They're talking about the building amenities. The market rate developer today, for example, who was describing the building amenities and what people were going to get when they lived in the building and how they were going to feel about the fresh air. And
a luxury market rate,
was.
Apartment building in New York,
I mean, so he might as well have been talking about any other building. It happens to be passive. So it is. It shows you where we are.
Yeah.
We're at that inflection point where we know how to do it. The roadmap's there. People just have to follow the roadmap. And again, not to go back to it, but the prefab panel that I was in was just that. Not only did we see that I attended, by the way, the one I now ran, but but the one I attended. I mean, for me, I want to learn about prefab. I saw beautiful projects. I was inspired, but they also provided a roadmap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been great, really inspirational.
Yeah, and back to that market rate project in New York that we were just talking about. That's delivered at 1% cost premium, and then we heard from POA in Boston about all these amazing affordable housing projects that are being delivered at 1% cost premium, and
that's the magic.
Yeah,
right?
It's what they always said. They said basically the more people did it, the more people would know how to do it, the more products would be sold for it, the less expensive we would get. And we're already there. So now the question is just, let's just do it. Let's build more. Let's keep going. Yeah. It's, again, really inspirational because you had a lot of people, just talking about the attendees. I mean, they're all doers. You're talking to, all the different people who came. These are each individual. I mean, they probably could have all done a session. I mean, these are people who are really already doing things.
Right.
And you learn so much just from the side conversations. It's been good.
What's nice about the people, because it is really about the people, right, Passive House has become a culture of sharing, right, that is, really reflecting this kind of populist movement. And
in the best sense of the term.
In the best sense of the term. Yes, thank you. And what I like about Phius right now, especially, and a lot of the conferences sessions that were at this conference, is they're investigating themselves and reinventing themselves in order to adapt to the disruptions that are about to occur because this is going to become commonplace. So it goes into code, it goes into grids. The microgrid session was incredible.
Yeah, that's what I just heard. Yeah, I'm so sorry I missed it.
It was wonderful. Yeah. Like if you go back and watch the recording, that was one with a camera on it. So please see it. Because they talked about the difference between a nanogrid and a microgrid. And then they also gave the tips and tricks that you're talking about, which were like, okay, right now I run conduit to every roof, even if they're not going to do solar, because in the future they're going to do solar. And I run wiring to the garage, because eventually they're going to have an EV, and they're going to want to plug it in there. So just run the wiring now. Well, they were like, run conduit to your neighbors because you're going to be on a neighborhood grid. Bury it now. And I'm like, I will never not build a project without that again. So like that's a really simple example of it. But when you get into the code and you get into the workflow disruption, like we were talking about, that prefab creates, if you don't have someone to warn you about that, or to even brainstorm with someone about who is passionate, who will share, you can't level up. And then you also can't give it to the people that it really matters for, which are the college kids and the kids in trade school who we're passing the baton to right now, who are literally passing the baton to our kids, who are passing it to the kids in grade school, who are passing it to the babies they're playing with. We're building time machines, and it's for them to give them time. And so we have to make sure that this sharing that's occurring happens in the most productive ways and in as many areas as we can, because they don't have time to waste learning the same lessons, making the same mistakes. That's why we share. We want to save each other from the things that we don't need to repeat and give each other the tools that we need right now, like yesterday.
Well said.
I really like that a lot of manufacturers use the conference as a jumping off point, which they always used to do, but it's been so long. So we had a number of different manufacturers announce new things at the conference.
Yeah.
And they'll be on their website, and we'll show it on the accelerator, right. And it'll keep going. But it's just something about being in person.
Uh-huh.
And you could tell they ramped up their promotional material, and some of it's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's really going to make a pretty significant difference. So just kind of going back to the market transformation that Shannon was saying, I mean, it's happening so fast and such an electric atmosphere, and part of that is we're all back together again. It's so nice to just see each other, not in the box.
Yeah. The joke that's been going on is people have legs. We have legs. And then the products are the same thing. It's like, oh, this is real. And it's actually this big, and I can see it and I can play with that. How fun is that?
My favorite one that happens continuously is, oh my God, Zach, you're so tall.
Always. That was me. That's Zach.
But I'm sorry, Zach. We're gonna go right back at you, because I don't know if anybody interviewed you today.
It's okay.
Zach, what are your big takeaways?
So you've talked to a lot of people.
I have, and sometimes I take more airspace than I should. So the listeners have probably heard plenty of me. One of the I've had a very unique experience at the conference, because I've been going to plenary sessions, and then all of the other time I've been spending interviewing people, which is actually a really cool way to experience a conference. And I do get little bite, like the key takeaways that people have presented or shared in their presentations. They'll share that with me. So it's been wonderful. I have just a funny little nugget that I want to share, and it came from the keynote from NYSERDA at the beginning in the opening plenary, and she just dropped this when she was describing the mission of NYSERDA around moving to high-performance building and passive house, and that is that we're moving from conventional polluting buildings to passive house or high-performance buildings, right?
Yeah.
So that notion that it's not just conventional buildings, which I've said probably 10 million times, during my time thinking and talking about passive house, but it's conventional polluting buildings.
Yeah.
And who wants to be in a conventional polluting building or support conventional polluting buildings or anything?
Conventional unhealthy building.
My conversation with James Kepner kind of, he riffed on that in his presentation, not that term, but the idea of the power of language as we're speaking to building owners and things, and how important that is. I always like to pick up these little things like, oh, I'm going to say conventional polluting buildings now.
Well, yeah, think of that. Yeah, think about that. We're always talking about conventional construction costs versus passive house costs.
Right.
So if you just said conventional unhealthy, conventional polluting versus passive house, all of a sudden,
here's the cost of building a conventional polluting building. Here's the cost of doing a passive house.
No, I want the polluting building. Can I have some bad air quality,
I want to save
please?
the 1%, please, for the polluting.
The smell of fumes. Yes, I want that.
Well, we should wrap this up. We have another interview scheduled, and then we have the keynote from Joe Seabrook that I think all of us are really looking forward to. So Shannon and Michael, thanks so much for your time, and it's my collaborators. It's awesome to get a chance to debrief on the conference.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
Thank you.